So that's fine, what I was seeing, big rap, come in as I will tell you. Down you middle this, make it jump on twist, speaking of this, tell you about it. Sometimes it's hard, but try and you'll make it. Believe you me. In order to achieve, go forth and take it. Set yourself free. With obstacles in your way, you may fall before you rise. But if you really want good, you know off a run. So get up and keep your eyes on the prize. So as part of your plan, you feel have ambition, and the Almighty One as your foundation. Hey, nobody get rich and rich because that's definitely wrong. Me beg you, no, don't forget your friends and where you come from. If you a thief, remember God now sleep. And although you rob a man and you get well last week, you fall about the street, but you're beaten going steep because God is a silent river and you know him run deep. Throughout history, lots of great men and women went about things the old-fashioned way. They just kept on winning and winning. So strive, step up in life and go for what you know. You've got to strive. How you mean, brothers and sisters, good day there. How you doing? I hope you're doing fine. Why you moving this mix up and play for the man like that and shine as I will say. Yeah. Real kid from a record machine to the spot when I was seeing big rap and come in as I will tell you. Why you moving this make it jump on twist, speaking of this, tell you about it. Sometimes it's hard, but try and you'll make it. Believe you me. In order to achieve, go forth and take it. Set yourself free. With obstacles in your way, you may fall before you rise. But if you really want good, your nose off a run. So get up and keep your eyes on the prize. So as part of your plan, you feel have ambition, and the Almighty One as your foundation. Hey, nobody get rich and rich because that's definitely wrong. Me beg you, no, don't forget your friends and where you come from. If you a thief, remember God now sleep. And although you rob a man and you get well last week, you fall about the street, but you're beaten going steep because God is a silent river and you know him run deep. Throughout history, lots of great men and women went about things the old-fashioned way. They just kept on winning and winning. So strive, step up in life and go for what you know. You've got to strive. Remove the doubt from out your mind and let good flow. Be not moved by smart remarks from people who think they're witty. Keep moving on, mind gotta be strong and don't indulge in self-pity. But strive, step up in life and go for what you know.
Greetings and salutations, and welcome to the JN Circle Thrive Together Life class. I am your host for the evening. I don't know why I look down like I don't know my name. My name is Carla Moore. I'm a life coach and I'm a gender specialist, and it's always a pleasure for me to be inside of this circle so we can do that work to live happier and healthier lives and to have happier and healthier communities. I want to say a special big up to all my returning residents who have been with us since season 1, and for anybody who is just joining here at season 5, hello and good howdy do. So today we are going to be talking about a topic that I think is current. Unfortunately, it's always current, but also a topic that is as old as time, and that topic is intimate partner violence. We have, as always, a fantastic panel of guests to talk to us about why love shouldn't hurt, exploring the cycle of intimate partner violence. But as always, we care about you in the circle and we want to know how you're doing before we get into the topic, especially because it's a topic that there might be people here who have experience with it. It might be triggering. Tell us how you feel. We are going to launch the Thrivometer, which is your opportunity to tell us how you're doing right now. And while you complete that, I am going to give you a little bit of context about the discussion that we're going to be having today. Why didn't they leave? This is perhaps one of the most persistent and distressing questions that survivors of intimate partner violence encounter, right? Why them never left? When them show you who they are, why you never left, why you never left, why you never left? And the question, a lot of times when we ask that question, or even if we don't ask it out loud, it comes to mind. The question is coming from a good place. It's coming from a place where we care about the person. We want them to be safe. We want them to be okay. We want them to find that resilience to do what's best for them. But underneath that question is a lot of misunderstanding on our parts about what the cycle of intimate partner violence looks like, and also what it feels like inside one of those relationships and what it takes to actually break that particular cycle. So that's why I'm really happy that today we're going to get an opportunity to explore some of those things, to understand intimate partner violence, to look at some techniques that we can use to interrupt intimate partner violence, and to think about what it means to build a community of care around survivors, whether that community is in the family, in the place, a geographic location, in the workspace. How can we make our spaces more welcoming and accommodating to survivors, and how can we give survivors the things that they need? As always, we always have nice people up here to come talk to you, and smart people, although them up here are trying to let them shine, but we're going to draw them out. We are going to draw them out. So today I'm joined by Dr. Nicole Plummer, who is a lecturer and undergraduate program coordinator at UA, and also one of the most brilliant people that I've ever met. I have never seen Nicole take on a topic that she don't absolutely start. Take the compliment, don't fight me. Right? How are you feeling?
I want to say good, but for me, this is a topic that I see around me all the time. And when you think about it, and you think about the fact that every time I'm afraid to go on Instagram, this is the latest casualty. So I'm good in and of myself, but I'm also not good when I just think about where we are as a country.
Yeah, I get that. And thank you for that, because I think that a lot of us are casually consuming other people's pain and casually consuming violence without even recognizing it, and that's one of the things that we have to be mindful of, because it's impacting us, right? So thank you. Jacqueline Dillon, I see that you're nodding. So Jacqueline Dillon, Deputy Superintendent of Police, Jamaica Constabulary Force Domestic Violence Intervention Officer. Me never know say you have a domestic violence intervention officer. So I'm so happy you're here. How are you feeling?
Thanks for having me. I am great.
Yeah.
Having listened to that, based on what we do, the JCF having to take on the issues every single day. The JCF Domestic Violence Unit, which I head, has to deal with victims of domestic violence every single day. That includes children. We have to face the perpetrators many times, and that in itself can, if you're not careful, takes an emotional toll on you, and therefore for us, because it becomes part of our job every day, we have to find the time to what we call debrief ourselves, so that we don't take it on to ourselves and take it on to our families. It's a challenging time for the JCF, having lost one of our members, just recently to intimate partner violence. And so I'm happy to be here, to be able to share with our viewers some of the things that they can protect themselves.
It's a lot of times we come to the conversation from the understanding that it is the woman who will lose her life, and women do, disproportionately women do. But I think what happened recently, and I saw it in the news, it's the man who was killed by his partner. And then she attempted to also harm herself, which is, it's very troubling for me how prevalent murder suicides are now inside of domestic violence situations. But really, they're just a feature of how popular domestic violence is, how popular intimate partner violence is, you know? So I want us to get into that, and I want us to get into the gender dynamics of that. And I appreciate that you both are very honest about the fact that this topic is not easy, because I think when we can come to the conversation from that place that this is actually hard, it puts us in a place that we can connect with the audience, who can see. Sometimes when we think about a specialist who works in an area, you think that, oh, you know, by the time you're 1 year in, 2 years in, 3 years in, everything good. It's just another topic, but it's not, you know. So thank you for coming to us in that energy. I see the people in the chat, they're really keen on the conversation. They want to know what the whole day, because they want to know how them feel. Whoa, yo, look how okay populated. All right, that's okay. We'll take it. So how would you describe your current mood? The most popular response is okay. Okay, still good. And we'll take it. However you're showing up, we are taking you. We're happy to have you. 27% of people were happy. 2% of people ecstatic. 5% were sad. 5% were miserable. All right, no worries. Sad and miserable, what so we can feel. Have you personally witnessed or been directly affected by intimate partner violence? 61% of people have either witnessed it or been directly affected by it. 36% of people said, I haven't been witnessed or witnessed or been affected. 2% preferred not to answer, right? Which is also, that's fine. How would you define intimate partner violence? Okay, the most popular response is all of the above. All of the above will include physical abuse, emotional or psychological abuse. Well, we didn't get any votes for sexual abuse, right? But it is actually all of the above. All of the above can fall under intimate partner violence, including sexual abuse. What do you believe are some common warning signs of an abusive relationship? The most popular response was controlling behavior and jealousy, which I'm grateful for, because I think in the past, people weren't thinking about jealousy as a sign, right? Verbal insults and put downs, yes. Physical aggression or threats, yes. Very important to point out threats, right? Not just the physical aggression, the threats of it. Isolation from family and friends, yes, you get cut off. Do you believe there are specific barriers that prevent individuals from seeking help or leaving abusive relationships? Most popular one, financial dependence on the abuser. The next most popular, fear of retaliation from the abuser. Cultural or social stigma, lack of awareness about available resources. So our audience understands what's happening, like they have a good awareness of where we are and what it looks like. So thank you all for participating in the Thrivometer, and we'll share it again at the end. So let's do some level setting around what intimate partner violence is. And sometimes you'll also hear me refer to it as IPV while we're having this discussion. I do want to do a trigger warning. But since there are people in here, we know that there's a high percentage of people here who have experienced or been exposed to it. Please pay attention to how you're feeling in your body. If you feel like you are becoming triggered, it is okay for you to take a pause, take some deep breaths. If you need to walk away from the screen, walk away from the screen, because you'll be here on the replay if you want to revisit it, right? You do not need to re-traumatize yourself in this conversation. This conversation is supposed to be caring to you, and we're asking you to care for yourself while we are holding this space for you. Okay, so please just be mindful of that. All right, so let's start off with understanding intimate partner violence. And I'm going to open the question. We kind of got it already. What are some of the different forms of intimate partner violence? I'm going to come to Jacqueline on this one, because when we see the financial violence, Jacqueline said, so talk to us. What are some of the different forms of intimate partner violence?
All right, so intimate partner violence start with emotional abuse. We talk about the threats, and we talk about threats 90% of the times, incidents of intimate partner violence is coupled with threat. That's where it begins. It begins in the emotional part, the psychological. We have, I nod my head when you say financial, because many times we forget that there is financial or economic abuse. And when we talk about that, many persons have never even thought that they were in a relationship where there is financial abuse. So I go out and I work my money, or my partner works the money, but my partner decides on how it is spent. And if I want to buy a pair of shoes, my partner said, no, I will go and choose the shoes for you. If I want a dress, my partner will choose the dress. If I want to go to the supermarket, my partner does that. And so I have no control or no access whatsoever to that money. And if I ask about it, then it morphs into some verbal abuse, or it escalates into physical abuse. Then we have the one that is happening within relationships, especially among married couples, is the sexual abuse. And because we talk about marital rape, there's nothing known as marital rape unless you're legally separated. Then you'll find that in many instances of intimate partner violence, sex is used as a means of control. The physical
Flesh
is
that
always
out,
the
flesh
last.
that out, flesh that out. Sex is used as a means of control. Call me. What you mean?
When I talk about sex being used as a means of control, so you abuse me verbally, and then you hold me down and take it. And even when I say no, you still hold me down and take it, because as far as you're concerned, it belongs to me.
And there's so much about what we understand marriage to mean that seems to validate that for some people to feel, say, you know, well, are your wife from your marriage, she belongs to you, and that include the common law, and also, you know, married in a church or married on a RGD, whatever, you know. And it's something that we still have to work through, and this element of punishment, using the act of sex as punishment. Okay. So financial, and then you said physical is the last one.
Physical is, I talk every day that the emotional abuse is the beginning. Physical is the end stage. So you start with a little box, and then it escalates into a kick. Then it escalates into a bigger box, or some other implement being used to inflict injury or harm to you. And then maybe you lose your life. So, but it didn't start there. It starts from words that we oftentimes don't pay attention to it. We say, it's because he loved me or because she loved me why he or she's doing these things, not understanding that if you don't understand intimate partner violence, the common signs you will miss.
Yes. So, on that element of love, because we know that love is a deep emotion, and love can spur us to do many things, right? Many good things. But when it comes on to the violence, there's a way that we say, oh, it's because of that deep emotion, the deep love, that the violence happens. And you're saying that's not an accurate way to look at it. The depth of the love does not automatically lead to the depth of the harmful reaction. I try to choose out the words them nicely. The depth of the love does not pardon the depth of the harmful reaction.
If you love me, why would you hurt me?
You love me, why would
because
you hurt
the
me?
question is, what is love really? And love oftentimes in the minds of many persons means the three-letter word, SCX.
Yes.
Love also borders on obsession and obsessive thinking. And so when one gets into a relationship, the individual must understand, if you love, what are you talking about when you talk about love? There should be a clear understanding of what love is. For many persons, again, culture and socialization plays a vital role in how individuals get into relationship, how they behave in relationships. And because of that, the difference between love and obsession is often marred by life experiences.
Just to interject on this point as well, is that you have some authors, people who study it and say that it is actually the upbringing, how we as Jamaicans culture our boys and our girls, and leading to a great deal of distrust between the genders. And this kind of distrust leads to a kind of failure to adequately communicate. And as a society, we are not always comfortable with with honestly expressing our feelings. And I'm not talking about the oh, me love you. I'm talking about the nuances that can occur in our relationships with people, and most especially our intimate partner relationships. So that's one factor. The other factor as well is that I think Janstex put forward that when it comes on to perpetrators of violence, intimate partner violence, sex is not about pleasure. Sex is simply reduced to control.
Yeah.
And so, on the one hand, if you look at it, what we think as normal relationship and what we have normalized, because there's a paper Dr. Sonesan and I are writing, and we talk about triggering. We had to collect a set of songs that are very popular in Jamaica. And not just current songs. We went as far back as Scatoo. Like there's one by the Two Kings that says, "Hit you, let you feel it." Right? Hit you, let you feel it, so that you know that I mean it. To deal with abandonment issues, right? And then you have 10 Commandments of Man by Prince Buster. And while it's a little tongue in cheek, it lays down punitive measures for women who cross the line, including those who, if it is that you expect sex every day. And then it goes on now when he even talks about songs, tear the pum pum, that's literally the language that is used. And so when you're looking at how it is that even our wider culture accepts this, and how it is that a young boy is socialized, it's almost like he's socialized to alienate himself from his penis, and the girl is socialized to alienate herself from her vagina. So that in terms of the pathological behavior, you have on the one hand that violent sex, and I'm not is good, where you have Bavada have a song, force it up in her, right? That's never, that just the title of it is just not okay. You know, songs that we like Inner Circle Sweat, when she said no, you just keep pushing some more. And then you have on the other hand how our own women internalize that pathology. And so for them, we can take it, no matter how I'm brutalized, we can take it. And so you find on the one hand, the patriarchal norms that lay out this kind of pathology and violence on the males, and the women who are, I am proud, I can take the violence.
Can manage it.
You know, so it's on both sides. There's a wider, and what my focus on in my own work is the wider social and cultural implications as well as manifestation. How does culture perpetuate it? And culture does have a lot to do with it.
Yeah.
And if I may,
Yes.
I normally say that when it comes on to the implication of culture and socialization and intimate partner violence, it begins when the child is in the womb. And oftentimes, we, as Jamaicans, we tend to believe that intimate partner violence is the sole responsibility of law enforcement. But we forget that culture and socialization begins at home. And so the messages at home will determine our male or our female will behave as adults. If you ever look in Jamaica and see our girls, how they behave, and how the boys behave when they group a girl, you know, they grab onto their private part, and the girl will laugh at it and think that nothing is wrong with that. I am, in other words, sexy, and I'm wanted, and I'm needed. And so the message has to begin within the home. We have to start to kind of shift the kind of messages that we present to our boys and our girls at home.
Yeah. Thank you for that. So we understand that there's a cultural element to intimate partner violence, which, you know, the culture is kind of like the starting point for most of the things that we deal with. And we understand that it's a feature of our socialization. So it's what we're telling young people. It means to be a man and that it means to be a woman. It's feeding into this as well. What are some of the myths and misconceptions that we have about intimate partner violence, especially in our space?
Well, let me start with the common one. I think everyone knows this. The myth that the victim is always at fault. I mean, every time someone, that's why I just reduced my social media consumption. Something happens, especially when the victim is a woman. What did she do? Right? Even when to excuse the inexcusable, what did she do? And so for me, it always begins there. That there's something that the victim does. Now, when it relates to the perpetrator, in the perpetrator's mind, there's another common feature of the perpetrator, and it's this: I am never wrong. Right? So it's not just a society judging the victim. I mean, we're going to talk about later why it's hard for the victims to leave, but this is part of the reason. The victim is never wrong. Even if after they beat you and they break your arm and they do this and they do that, I did it because you did this. I did it because you did that. But the truth is this: there is nothing that anyone can do in a relationship that can justify any amount of violence. Because you see the 2 feet that you have, or the wheelchair, or the crutches, you can't walk away. You feel that.
You could have also left. Yeah. The amount of say what we are saying, this is show
You know, you have to be signed.
No, sir.
Because I won't even go into what Doc just said, because that is one of the major reasons, one of the major myths around intimate partner violence, gaslighting.
Yes.
Perpetrators are great manipulators. You see them in public and they create that image of being nice and sweet on the outside to the wider public, because the public
sometimes
must
you
never
even look at the relationship that they have with their partner in public and envy it. Because the relationship looks so loving and so healthy.
It is so nice in the public space. But when you get home, the demons put out their horns. So that's what you get. Another myth is it is easy for a victim to leave.
Why?
It is not.
Why?
And if you understand the cycle of abuse and what happened in intimate partner violence, you'll also understand the reason why victims find it hard to leave. So another question that is never asked, and I tell my team members, never ask a victim why make you not left.
Hello. What? So the victim, we love to blame the victim. The perpetrator feel like they're above blame if somebody else do it. What is that cycle? Because it got through your mind. We'd be lying if we say it never got through your mind. When you see the person in the relationship and 2 years pass, 3 years pass, 4 years pass, it got through your mind. Why are you not leaving? What is happening inside of that cycle? Why the person not leaving? Like, what does that cycle of intimate partner violence actually look like?
Let me tell you. It starts with what we call the tension building phase. Criticisms.
No, but even before that, before you get the tension building, it's also how you have to get the victims buy-in. You know, so it's the savior complex, the sugar, you can't believe this person is so good, really, really nice, and then
some of them start off very wrong. Some of them bomb you with the love.
love bomb.
Them love bomb you. Some of them bomb you with
can't
the love
even
when it
breathe.
starts.
Have you ever seen a relationship that starts bad?
No, it starts off sweet, honeymoon.
They're always sweet, don't
literal honeymoon.
And nice, and everything you ask for, you get. And
it feels like a perfect relationship.
It feels like the perfect relationship.
True. Yes.
Then you start move on to the tension building.
Mhm.
So you get in now and everything nice and you're at home and everything's sweet. And then it starts with you can't do anything good. You see, there's something that we always never think about.
Wow.
You see, if you ever leave me, you see that's something the way you have,
Yes.
it belongs to me.
Mhm.
Don't.
If you leave, you try left it
You
and
see,
go on.
you say if you are left, you have to left that gone now, 'cause that's sweet, sweet, sweet,
Mhm.
sweet. So you can't carry it with you.
Right.
And the tension starts when you start to use the threats,
Yeah.
the coercive controlling
Right.
behavior, the obsessive thinking.
Yes.
Those are some of the things that are happening where it comes on to
And even when in
tension.
that early stage, right? One of the things with that early stage is that you can go over your head.
Yeah.
Is in the niceness that they're giving you are little things like, your hair would look a little better if you do this.
Yes.
I may be waiting about wearing this instead.
Yeah.
You never ask for them opinion, What about you lose a little weight, or what about you gain a little weight? Subtle,
Yeah.
Or I've seen people in relationships whereby the man will offer, oh, him wash me hair for me. That's great, that's lovely. But he's also at the same time telling you, maybe I don't normally like how you style it, so I'm going to watch it and just style it this way for you. You see it, you see how you look nicer with it. So it's always under the cover of these very. It starts out so nice, and you can mix it up, because we all have our friends who will tell us from time to time that maybe that don't look. But you have to look at the pattern. You're giving and taking. You go to dinner and them order. You want order for yourself.
You can't.
Or no. Oh, take that drink. Take that food.
I think this one will taste
This
better.
one tastes better.
You try this one or eat this one.
The little control.
I remember you not asking them for it. That is the important thing.
I have a client who said to me, I can't cut my hair because I have to ask permission to cut my hair.
Yes, I've seen that.
And I'm like, seriously?
I've heard that before.
If I ever cut my hair, or I have a client who will say to me that my dress cannot be above my knee.
Yes.
It has to be up below my knee because my partner says that he doesn't want anybody to look at my legs.
Yes.
And they know who they target as well. They target people who, for one reason or we all have a kink in our armor. That's the reality. And they know how exactly to target that kink. So in other words, you are a single mother and you never see someone, they might not come even directly. They seem to embrace your child first and then you. You might come and you might not be as educated as them. And then at the same time, I'm telling you, boy, buy a little book, send you to school a little bit. Or you might even be more educated and you hear that, boy, despite your education, you have, like, for me, let me be honest, I have a sense of direction issue. That's a joke amongst my friends. So you're going to go ahead and use that all the time and say to me that, boy, you have PhD, but you know no roadie. So it's
smart.
Exactly. So it's the ways in which you are praised and put down until eventually the praise becomes scarce and the put down becomes more and more often. And then you find yourself, then there's the other one I've noticed as well. You see, those friends of yours are not good for you, Friends you're having in your life for 20, 30, how many years? What are your mother telling you? No. That brother there, no. That cousin there, no. That co-worker there, no. People you have coffee with, no. And you slowly but surely move away so that they become the only opinion that is in your ears. It happens, it doesn't happen overnight. It's so slow. Sometimes it's done when they're so caring, so insidious, like the snake in the Garden of Eden.
Even to go out with friends is a problem. We talk about social isolation, and social isolation is one of the major tools that I use. So me and you join at the hip, right? I can't go anywhere without you, and you can't go anywhere without me. Your parents can come and visit me. This is my house. Remember, it's both of us, darling, and I want nobody else to interfere. You see, all of that after a while destroys one's confidence, one's self-awareness, and they become a fragment of themselves. They have to seek approval. If the partner does not approve, for them, they can't make those decisions on their own, because when it comes to that, it destroys their ability to make rational decisions. And so they rely on the partner to do all of that. So when we pass through that phase, and that sometimes is years, right? They pass through that phase and we escalate now into the violence stage. I always use the scenario of soda. We all used to drink soda, even if we stop now. And when you go in the supermarket and you see the soda, it calls you, beckons to you, and you have that urge. It's a relationship developing, look nice and sweet. And then you now go and take up the soda and you're doing this. Start to form little bubbles in there, and the bubbles build until they become bigger bubbles. That's the tension building. And then after that, it escalates into violence. You know, having shake up that bottle, take off the cover, what happened? Everything come out. When you talk about violence, it takes the form of sexual violence, it takes the form of any other forms of physical violence. And then after that, it's like a storm. And you know, the hurricane blow and blow and blow, and then it stops for a while. So we come down now to the honeymoon stage.
Go back to the
I'm sorry. You know, it's because you did do this, why this happened. And the victim is always blamed. Victim is always to be blamed for whatever happened. And you get the nice car that you couldn't get. You get all the money that you couldn't get before. You get all the loving that you couldn't get before. And you're told how beautiful you are. Baby, just put on a little bit of makeup and fix yourself. And let me tell you, we're talking about women, you know, but the men go through that same sort of violence. Sometimes it is worse than the women, because we find from where I am that the women tend to be a lot more violent as perpetrators than the men.
Really?
Many times in domestic violence, when it escalates, the woman is the first one that hits. Many times that is what happened. We like to use our hands and we hit people, you know? And so whilst we have more women reporting incidents of gender-based violence, we also have men who are victims of that rage.
You know, I've seen, just to add to the societal point, you see, one of the things with popular culture is that it's a reflection of who we are. And in Echo, I don't know if you know the song by Echo Minor, What the Hell the Police Can Do. And in the video, he talks about like thump down the woman and I beat her up and what the hell the police can do. But what is important is the community behind him. And the community behind him basically boosting him up, right? And bigging him up and along the line that, see, he's asking what the hell the police can do. This is why I beat her. And they see the people nodding them head and them in them and them agreeing that she forget lick. But that other aspect of it, going back again to my training in cultural studies, the power dynamic. In a patriarchal world, you have, well, you know it, hegemonic masculinity and ideals of the hegemonic male. What happens when someone cannot or identify as hegemonic male? Partly because they're being abused by the woman in that relationship. Then it becomes something that you bear silently. And I have known one of the tools that women will use to control men in a relationship is a financial power. And so, especially when they are the primary breadwinners and a man leaves, it's either two things: either if you leave are taking half of what you want, what you have, or if I leave, you will not have this anymore. And so what the couple together have bought becomes something that cannot be removed. I know that there are some men in relationships whereby they are abused emotionally, they are abused in many other ways, but they have vested that image, they've vested that their identity in that woman, and they're not going. I've seen where men that were vivacious have gone down to stick, and for that same reason, and they're too ashamed to leave. So when we as a society, how we code it and how we deal with weakness. We as a country, we don't deal with weakness very well. And it affects both genders. And while we're talking about heterosexual relationships, in a world that is changing, these same dynamics also play out in same-sex relationships, right? And I think Jacqueline might be even better than me to talk about it. The fact that you might find, due to Jamaica's stance on it, it is not going to be very well reported. But within my field, I work with people who are involved in same-sex relationships, and the abuse is there, but they will not go to you.
That is one of the major reasons why we had to establish domestic violence intervention centers. And I know we get a little further talking about interventions. We can discuss that. But that was one of the major reasons. Because we found that the laws, for one, is such that a man and man legally not recognized. That kind of relationship not recognized. And as much as we want to go around it under the disguise of the law, we're living in a global context and things are changing. And it therefore means that when persons, for us, and I'm speaking about the JCF and the Domestic Violence Intervention Centers now, when we get reports, gender has no bearing on how we respond. And so I've gotten called in my office from persons all the way in Montego Bay who are in same-sex relationships and ask for help. We have had them turn up at domestic violence centers. As a matter of fact, that was one of the first cases we had to deal with. And I can tell you, my center manager was out of this world at the time because he hears a pastor who is set in his religious belief and has to treat with a matter that goes against his very religion. And so we have to train our people who we have at these centers to look beyond your own perspective on some things and look at persons who come to us for help, because in truth and in fact, we take an oath of office to protect everybody, to serve and protect, and we never talk about sexual orientation. Neither did we talk about gender. And in a changing society, we must adapt to that and use the laws within the context to ensure that we serve everyone. So it has become one of the major challenges we have, because we do have clients who are in same-sex relationship, but they will not go directly to a police station. They come to us. They'll say, I'm not going to a station. You need to tell me where I can find you, or tell me where I can find a domestic violence intervention center, and I will go there.
So they feel safer going to the center.
They feel safer going to the center because the center, not a police station, is really a safe space for victims of domestic violence where they can go and make reports.
But in speaking Japanese, you mentioned religion, and I have had students come to me within the context of religion, and when they've gotten married, the church say you get married, and a lot of them get married young, but the husband or the wife, they have started abusing them, and then when they go to the pastors, especially where the women, the report is often stay with your husband, talk it over with your husband, love your husband, right? The more you give grace, turn the other cheek, love, 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 love. And then there is a whole church community that's telling you, don't leave. There are women in the church that told my pharmacy, don't leave. Right? So the religious affiliation, the closer they are, the more fundamentalist they are, right? It's the more they cleave on to stay in abusive relationships. That's the advice you get when you seek counseling.
I agree with you 150%. I had a training session with some of our volunteer chaplains, all pastors. And these are some of the discussions that we have. Because what we find is that the rules of the church, and they took me to task when I said it, that oftentimes the rules of the church and the operations of the church fester intimate partner violence. What I mean by that, I've had persons who are ardent Christians hold church position, and when they go to their pastors and the counselors in the church, they are told that they can't leave their husbands and they have to stay in the relationship and fix it because we don't believe in divorce. And if you leave, you can't sing on the choir anymore, you're going to have to go back bench. And so the kind of service that they would have given us Christians, they can't do it again because the church does not facilitate it. And that is one of the reasons why we have been, since inception, 2021, the unit was formed. We engage our churches as our major stakeholders because they are very impactful on communities. And therefore, if we're talking about education, we need to begin at a central point. And what better point to begin than at the church? To educate and get the buy-in that domestic violence happen to anybody, intimate partner violence happen to anybody. I went and I spoke at a church function about 2 years ago. And at the end, I had a long line outside who wanted to have a discussion around intimate partner violence. A gentleman who was a deacon in the church, a pastor, could not know that he's in an intimate partner violence situation at home. As a matter of fact, he's before the court. But the church could not know that. And there was no avenue created for him to engage somebody to say to them, listen, this is a problem I have. This is what has been happening and I need help. So when he came to me, I was taken aback because I'm saying, but I never expect that in the church. And so I had to change my whole concept and perception of what actually happens within our churches and start to engage them a little bit more.
And don't get us started on the way sexual abuse is treated in the church, particularly when the victims are powerless. You know, victims that come from families that don't have that much power. So, you know, as I said, I'm not even going to get started. It's a whole nother topic.
But I'm glad that we're talking about this because church practice, church beliefs, church policy impacts culture so deeply in Jamaica. It comes out, it don't stay in the church. It comes out and it becomes our realities. And somebody saying it in the chat, when the church tell me to pray and God will change him. Pray for the man and God will change him, right? Churches in Jamaica, some people, and there's a comment here that indicates to me the feeling of hopelessness that we're having. If the police force can't get it to stop, why would think the church can get it to stop? Because, and it's not specific to Jamaica. This is something that we have been dealing with for years across cultures and across countries, intimate partner violence. I remember I saw a body of research that was done in Trinidad, and there was one bit that struck me. They said, what are some of the indicators that intimate partner violence might happen in a relationship if the man had a fight with somebody else earlier in the day? So if he had a disagreement with somebody else earlier in the day, especially if he did not come out as the victor, it significantly increases the likelihood that that his partner will be abused later in the day.
But I want to address the first part of your statement, that if the police can't get it right, who's going to get it? Is it a police issue? Is another question. Is it a police issue? Only. Is it a church issue? Only. Because intimate partner violence begins at home, in communities where community members oftentimes are sympathetic to the perpetrator. So when we are talking about intervention, and when we are talking about looking at intimate partner violence, we better open our eyes and look at it holistically, because it is not law enforcement, only law enforcement, because it impacts the law and the fact that somebody may die or been seriously injured, and it's a crime. It becomes a community issue, because when intimate partner violence happens in a community, in a home, it affects a wider community. It becomes a Jamaica problem because it impacts our healthcare, it impacts our finances, it impacts every level, the workplace, where people have to take time off because they are battered and bruised and you lose productive hours, where perpetrators have to go to court and those persons cannot produce in the formal work system. It impacts every sphere of our lives. And as Jamaicans, we have to open our eyes and start to realize that education begins at home. Changing behavior begins at home. It begins with what we tell our boys. It begins with what we tell our girls, how we treat our boys, and how we treat our girls. Oftentimes we marginalize our men, our boys, and expect them to become effective men. Now we can't marginalize the young men and tell them how them worthless and them not going to come to nothing good because them dress a particular way or because them look a particular way. So we start early by marginalize them, and we start to determine how men should behave, right? Without guiding them or having the proper facility or education system to educate them. Do we teach responsibility in schools?
But it's interesting that you mentioned that, because one of the issues that we can also have is this: a child in a home that witnesses domestic violence becomes a traumatized child that is likely to act out, that it becomes a literal cycle, and there are different ways. And I think there's an harmony of this whole thing that we have to look at. We have to ensure that we have enough support. What do I mean by support? We did a workshop, gosh, time flies, maybe 3 weeks ago, on culture and violence in schools, and we did it with teachers. And one of the things that came up is just how triggered and violent some of the children are. And there is I forget what my colleague, that's Dr. Dillon, she titled it something, but it's like the home is nestled, the school is in a community, the home is in a community. And the fact is that someone who has not had any kind of training, no kind of intervention to break that cycle. So I see my father abuse my mother. I'm a girl. So I might get a young man who is calm and logical and reasonable. And I am literally trying to turn him into my father. And when he's not dealing with me like how my father deal with my mother, I deal with him that way.
Exactly.
And then at the same time, if I'm a boy and I see that, I only know one way to control that girl. Now, if you look at it, if even I have to say, yes, the home is important, but what happens when the two traumatized people raising children? And more across Jamaica, as people witness violence, as it becomes normalized, both in intimate partner violence, community violence, gang violence, I could name it, various kinds of violence. Where does that intervention come? Mommy violent, daddy violent. So we're talking about in the schools that you send them to, you expel them, or you suspend them, and some of the students can't wait to be suspended because one of them y'all go do what they want to do. Right? Some of the parents are afraid of their children. So we were brainstorming what were some of the solutions. The fact is that everybody has to go to school at some point. And I remember talking to one woman. I was getting food for my daughter, and I heard us there talking. And she told me she went to a seminar. One of the seminaries having, like, they have these short sessions on parenting and so on, and she avidly attends. And she said, Miss, when I was growing up, me like to talk and a box me get. But me, from my training session, people said my children enough because them talk. And I just say, all right, I am here to listen. And I just listen to them. But at the end of it, still, I tell them, said, this is why I don't raise my hand to them. And she said, she's from the inner city. But she said she is determined to break that cycle. And how she did it was through that workshop. And I feel that we can't, it begins in the home, but people need to be guided. We need to have more social workers, pump the money into the social workers, pump the money in. A lot of schools don't have enough access to psychiatrists and psychologists, and There's a whole network of care that needs to be provided at the community level, at the school level, at the church level, you know, in the workplace. Because, you know, I'm also a historian by training. I wrote this paper a couple of weeks ago that looked at, you know, the rise of the rude boys. And we're talking about 1940s, 1950s. Rude boy become rude grandpa, rude daddy, rude grandpa, rude great grandpa. And so generation after generation after generation, we're talking about a culture of violence. So how do you break that? And the only way you can break it is through intensive. I notice I'm not just saying education. I talk intensive education. Like everywhere I look, it must be there. And it has to be a part of the school curriculum. It has to be something. So when people are telling you foolishness in a church, you don't know, say, you are talking to the school, so trained social worker and psychiatrists and psychologists, I know it's a foolishness. You can break it.
And you see, it requires a national consensus, a national program, joint up approach between agencies. So it's not about one agency, it's about different agencies assisting in ensuring that we have proper education and proper support system out there for victims of violence. And I've always said, a lot of people ask, why doesn't the police do? And I say, can we put a police at everybody's household?
We can.
So how do we change minds? I used to do a youth empowerment program for children in school. And I remember one situation where this 15-year-old came on the program. They only met when they came on the program. And one afternoon, I saw the boy hang on to the girl's neck, pulling her. I said, stop, what you doing? He said, Miss, I'm a girlfriend. He said, how does she become your girlfriend? You have just met. He said, me no, miss, me like her, she like me, and we decided that we're girlfriend and boyfriend.
Together.
I said, okay. So why you have to be pulling her like that? Miss, I don't like how she stand up and talk to the boy. Because when I was talking to her, that's how she stand up. I said, how you get that, miss? I see my father beat my mother. And my father said, boy, this is how you treat women, so that them listen to you. Say if he was and control them. So exactly what he learned at home is what he is now emulating. You know, this is what he's using to control women and consider them girlfriend. The question is, how do we form healthy relationships? And how do we educate young people and adults to get involved? When they are getting involved, they are to ensure that it's healthy relationships that they are in.
I'll go get into that in the next segment. Because when I'm listening to both of you, I'm hearing so many different cycles. The cycles of pain, the cycles of distrust. Him not trust the girl. And you just say, you stand up and talk to me, and say, you stand up and talk to the other person. Right? I'm hearing generational passing things on. You know, when you have a significant shift in the culture at one point in time, it's not just the men who were there at that point because they're going to pass it on. It's not just the women that were there at that point because they're going to pass it on. And so what I'm hearing is we have the cycle of abuse, which goes from the honeymoon to the tension building to the flare up, and then you go back at the sweetness again, and then the tension start build again. And then what I'm hearing is I am trying to protect myself at all costs, and I fundamentally don't trust people. We have an entire song that is about how we don't trust people and we buy with car cash. We don't even trust vehicle, right? We're looking at we're looking at these cycles of distrust and what happens when distrust interacts with another cultural element that says it's okay for me to use violence to solve my problems. A cultural element that says relationships are about control. Somebody's supposed to inner control in the relationship, and it's a go be me. And all of the complications that come from us trying to navigate that, you know. And so I'm very excited for the next segment, because the next segment we're going to talk about how we broke the cycle. Because, and I see the people going off in the chat. Oh, I'm going to chat. Come put me in the chat. They love our enough children. Jacqueline, them saying they love enough people there. Okay, when we were small, my mom and dad always had disagreement. My brother never hit a woman. So children will live what they learn. Not all young people who witness violence will go on to be violent themselves, but it does increase the likelihood that they will.
Nurture and experience.
Nurture and experience. Right.
Help
Mm-hmm.
to either make you or break you.
Right. This is somebody saying it. Teresa said, children live what they learn. I feel like other persons can be more involved in kids' lives, no matter who they are, but this world is full of perverts, which is another thing that we have to think about when we're trying to build out Jacqueline face, when we're trying to build out a community of care around ourselves and our children. Are there safe people who can be a part of that community? Tell me back a little bit, tell me back in a time in the chat and say, hi, I want to say, children that that lack love and attention normally act out as well. And we kind of spoke about that. So much of this is coming down to what happens to us when we're young, and that's interesting for me because we're talking about intimate partner violence. And generally when people think about intimate partner violence, they think about man and woman business, which means they think about adults, but the conversation is so rooted in what happens to you in the earlier part of your life that feeds across.
But is any relationship ever just literally the man and the woman?
No.
No relationship is. If it is that you're a child and even if it's not your parents, that's your neighbor, right? And how your parents talk about what is going on in that neighbor's business is important.
Yes.
So we are just, it is never just the man and the woman.
Yeah.
It's worse when children are involved.
Yeah.
But the fact is that you have a whole community of people involved in the business, whether or not you like it. All when you don't know them, you could have, Timbuktu, I get batter bruise. Someone around that, right? Unless you're isolated in the Siberian wilderness and it's a tour you. Let's believe all the rat them have an opinion.
One and two cockroach are judge you.
You know what is interesting? When you're looking for a partner, you're taught from early. You know, if you take up now, bumpy head man, don't.
Yes.
You're taught from early that the man complexion must be at a certain tone, and he must be at a certain height, and he must look a certain way. Well, I'm speaking from my experience growing up, because my grandmother used to say, you mustn't take up the natty head, man, it's a pity them head, I go natty too.
Yes.
Right? So there are certain things that are in your mind from childhood that you take up to adulthood, that when you're seeking a partner, sometimes you not even see the demon that lurks in the eyes because you're looking at the outwards appearance, because you remember that your parents and your grandparents did tell you, say.
Yeah.
So yes, it's never me and you in a relationship. It's always me, you, and the others who I don't see.
Yeah. And all of the people who have informed who you became.
Yes.
Yeah. Thank you for that. And even that granny who, if you say, oh, you want a man that is loving and kind, but in a way, some of them might not say, you must leave him if he lick you. Or, or if she try put her hand on you or she emotionally abusive, you must leave. Because there's a way that there's an attitude that condones it. There's the finance and there's the condoning it. And it's true. Some people might think, oh, I'm doing well by my children because there's no violence in my household. No, but your attitude is saying that violence is okay. And that's also in your household, right? All right. So I know about a situation that a young girl made a comment about the way her mom looked. And mom hit that child so hard the child could not eat for a week. Isn't that abuse? Absolutely, Barbara, that is abuse. We have to ask some question about that. You're not supposed to lick picnic, so you're not supposed to lick picnic, but you definitely ain't supposed to be licking them to the point where they cannot eat. That's a problem, right? And then, so cycles of distrust, cycles of pain. People who have pain that they're traveling with and who are hurting other people because they have pain that they're not addressing, that they're not aware of. Sometimes we're aware of it and we don't care to do anything about it, right? But I want us to move into segment 2, but before I do, I want to do a giveaway of an Amazon gift card. Now, every week when I come here, I want to feel like I know my question then. And before me can don't ask me question, I'm going to type answer in a chat. Someone said phone this week. It's not going to be that question. So, DSP Jacqueline Dillon is a part of a center. What is the name of the center? The center. She said the name many times. You're not saying name I sent to Omar. Omar, me never see a center in a name. See, Omar and saying, but Omar, me not see center in a name. Why center name? Omar? Eh?
Omar was ready for you, man. Omar was ready for you.
Omar said, girl, I am getting the gift card this week. Okay, everybody, please big up Omar Miller. Who was ready with the answer. No, what am I gonna use for the next question? Me set me heart too high and now me carry it up to it. Okay, so it is head of the head of the Domestic Violence Intervention Centers. Oh, I'm like impressive people. Oh, I'm not on this side and that. Why? Okay, gather yourself. We're going to talk about breaking the cycle. So we're going to look at some prevention strategies that we can use, but I want to come back to a question that we kind of touched on before. Why do the women stay? Why do the men stay? Why we stay? We're talking about breaking the cycle. We want to find out why we're staying in a cycle.
Can I start with something?
Yes.
There are 3 dynamics
Yes.
to domestic violence: love, fear, hope.
Orlando.
Every time you talk to a victim, you hear, I love him, I love her. No, I report, me no, I do nothing, can me love him.
Oh,
So love.
yeah.
Then you have fear. Then if me left where me I go, me don't know where to go. Me don't nobody to help me. Me don't have no money.
Yep.
I'm dependent on this person.
Yeah.
And him did tell me that if I leave, me depend me own with the pitney them. I can't leave and go back into the one room that I shared my other siblings. And then there's hope.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, it's not going to happen again. Him don't apologize already. And we're going to try work it out, because we talk to a whole ton load of people, and we're going to work it out. Love, fear, and hope. Always the hope that things will change.
Mm-hmm.
The fear is, if I leave, what am I going to do?
Mm-hmm.
If victims have no, all right, in communities, if they don't have any social support system,
Mm-hmm.
be it family, community members, friends, they're isolated.
They are.
They're on their own. And that's why social isolation is such a powerful tool in intimate partner violence. Because once you're isolated from families and friends, when it is time for you to go, you have to be wondering, what am I going to do? I've not spoken to my relatives in years. I've not spoken to my friends. They have left me because I refuse to leave. I have nowhere to go. I have no one to turn to.
Yeah.
I don't work.
Yes.
What am I going to do to finance myself?
Yes.
Or am I going to cope? Or am I going to get money to survive?
Yeah.
If I leave, are there any national programs that will help me? They are. It's just that people don't know that they exist, but they are.
Yeah.
And so, again, these are some of the reasons. Oh, fear of retaliation. You see, threat, powerful, mess up your mind. You say, if you ever left, I go and kill you. You might not say, I go and kill you. There are other slangs that are used. So it drives fear in me that it better me stay and take the lick than leave and I forgot try secure myself, which I may not be able to do.
Stick with the evil,
So me go stay so and go and manage the beating.
Yeah. Fear, love, and hope. I remember I was in a situation, it wasn't physically abusive, it was emotionally abusive, and I was going back and forth about leaving. And I spoke to somebody who she's like a gender-based violence specialist, and she said, when I speak to women who are experiencing gender-based violence, the one thing they have in common, they'll tell you, I don't want to leave them, I just want them to change.
Yeah.
I don't want to leave the relationship, I just wish that they would change. Yeah. And she had to get really honest with me and be like, they might change in their own sweet time. You don't know when anybody is going to change, and you don't know that the person can change. So you really have to ask yourself that question. I think when the sweetness of a relationship is happening, it's easy because you can give up all your friends and family because it means more time together. But then you have to ask yourself, does this relationship feel like it's costing me? Does this relationship feel like it's costing me?
And compromising you.
Compromising you.
Because I think there's a lot in our society that alienates us from our center, from ourselves. And so someone who is very strategic that isolates us from family, isolates us from friends,
Yes.
isolates us from even our jobs. There are some
Mhm.
people who say, I don't see why you're working. It's not like, especially when they have a lot of money.
Mhm.
I don't see why you need this job, I can cover everything.
I
It's
got
not
you.
like your job can
Mhm.
do this and that and the other. And they're very generous and you feel very pampered and very loved up and you can't make it to family events. So you're deliberately isolated
Mhm.
and you forget. Yes, people can do it. You forget how to take care of yourself. But there's another aspect that is important. You see, I've had people say to me, and it comes up repeatedly, that I feel like I'm not being myself.
Mhm.
It's a sign, it's a small thing because sometimes it happens even before the abuse, even before some of the other things. I feel like I'm not being myself. I don't feel authentic.
Mhm.
And when they don't, in our culture, we're not told to spot that. Worse in this culture now of appearances,
Mhm.
where people are moving away from just their core self. Some people can't even stand the voice in their head.
Mhm.
And research, actually, there was a research that came out that said some people didn't know that there's an inner voice that they talk to, like they weren't even aware of it.
Oh my gosh.
So when it is that you're either that not reflective or you are not aware of it, someone creeps in, settles themselves like a worm in your soul,
Mhm.
and then you say after a while from saying I don't feel myself, or I feel I'm giving away too much, it becomes the norm. And so one of the things that when people have to pick up and leave, it is to find themselves first, because that self is sometimes lost in that relationship, in that person. And that is why it is so important to maintain your friendships and your relationships. And don't get me wrong, we're not talking about going out and having drinks and all those things, because in the financial climate, I'm not even talking about Jamaica. I don't see my friends as often. Once you have children, they have the gamut, you don't have no money. But are you sending them on WhatsApp? Are you chatting to them at lunchtime? You're checking in with them. Are you checking in on each other? Want to see that's not happening? And you're not checking, and there's no one to ask you, Carla, hi, how are you? And you can't answer them in an authentic way. And you have to ask yourself why. Because it begins with that little thing. Where are you? And the first thing when you have to leave is to gather that self that's been shot all over the place and leave. So that's the first. That's what I would say to anyone.
Yeah.
To gather up yourself.
To gather up yourself.
And in support of what Doc says, I have a client in an abusive relationship for 26 years. And all the elements of abuse is there. Financial, spouse took care of that. Whenever he beats her, he takes her to the doctor. The doctor is his friend. So is his friend. So she don't get nothing to say. I was beaten, whatever, these were the wounds, whatever. Never got that. And you know how she coped? For 26 years, she started to do what we call selective memory. So she put herself in a space where she's happy. And that's how she dealt with it for 26 years. When we took her out, and when we took her out, she could not remember all of the incidents because she has buried them so far in her head. So when you see her, she's a fragment of a woman. She's deflated. She has no self-confidence. She walks with her head down at all times, afraid that if she looks up, there's always going to be that abuse. And the fear that is there is so powerful. And so we have a lot of women, men too, who are in abusive relationship for years, where they have lost themselves. It is even more difficult for them to come out because first and foremost, victims of domestic violence, intimate partner violence, more so. their first thought is always to protect the perpetrator.
That is
Their
true.
first thought is always to ensure that no harm no come to the perpetrator. And I just tell you why I love fear and hope.
Yeah. And it's as though you're hoping that if you give this to
Yes.
them, they will
Yes.
see it and reciprocate it in how they treat
In fact,
you.
I think hope is the worst of the whole of them, you know.
It's very
Hope is like, you know, when you have a cheese in front of a mouse or a carrot in front
And
of a
you're
horse,
dangling it.
and you dangle and the horse just keep on chasing it, but you never get to
Catch
taste
it.
that carrot. That is what I think the hope is like.
is.
It's the fear, because the fear, when it comes on to fear, you know, someone can just come in, whether it's your family or whatever, and say, here what, come in. Right? And even what was the first one you had said?
Love.
The love. You know, love itself can even turn to hate. But you see, the worst one for me is the hope.
Because there's
Because
always
hope
that
not really
belief.
based on nothing too concrete, you know.
Because there's always the belief that things are going to change.
And
Because
hope
this is what the
there.
perpetrator says, you know.
Yeah.
In all of the, and that's why I say to people, when the wounds heal,
Yeah.
the emotional abuse mash up your head,
Yeah.
mash up your psyche.
Yeah.
It turns you into something else and
Yeah.
someone else.
And beyond a certain point, and I'm thinking for people who have been in relationships for a while, you start to feel, I've put up with this so long. The only way that I can make what I have gone through worth it is if them change and now we manage to have a healthy relationship together, instead of let me leave, you know,
And I have to start over.
because it's personal, as you said. You and somebody said it in the chat. You know what you've been going through. You know what you've been going through, and you start to do the maths, and you're like, okay, well, 5 years and put up with this.
Might as well me continue.
Might as well me continue. Or can you imagine me gonna look like idiot and put up with this for 5 years and I have nothing for show feet. Me not have
Worse
nothing for
when
show feet.
you've been secretive. I actually had a student couple years ago, older woman, close to retirement age, and when she outlined what her husband had done to her, the humiliation and the degradation that he had subjected her to for years, right? And I'm talking about even some, you know, I always associate kinky and freaky things with another class of people, but they were working class people, and wife swap and all them things there, and I was like, what? And because, you know, that's what he wants, and he wants excitement. And you know, she eventually left, but there was so much of her that was left behind in that relationship. And then there is a way in which, suppose you enter that relationship at 25, it's like yourself, that growing of yourself ended at 25, then the person took over, and then suddenly you are 55, and you realize that there's a gulf between 25 and 55 that you have to try. And one of the things that we did not even talk about, you know, I had another student whose mother got very sick, ended up belonged to the church, spent her whole life. Even the man even had his girlfriends around her and all of that. And she eventually got cancer. You know, who was promptly left isolated. So all the cooking she was doing, all of this and all of that, we forget that another form of abuse sometimes is when you get sick, you are left alone. Right? Churches are replete with people who had husbands or wives, but particularly who had husbands until they got sick. And so abandonment is another form of abuse, because you are there working and taking care of them. And in our society, we don't necessarily raise our men to do that care. I mean, it's changing. Let me say, I see some changes. I see some men at my daughter's school. I see some daughters' hairs combed by men, and I see drop-offs. I see the changes. But for some of our older and middle, it's already too late, and they're left alone to sick and die.
Yeah. I mean, statistically, there's data that backs it that men are far more likely to leave their partners when they become sick than women are. And a lot of it has to do with, again, socialization.
Yeah.
We socialize women into understanding that they're caregivers, that they're nurturers, that it's their role to make sure everybody's okay. We don't socialize men into the same thing.
Yeah.
And we socialize women into a type of physical and emotional long suffering, to be okay with long suffering. But it's not just long suffering, it's actually we give women the tools to remain in those situations. And in some ways, we actually don't give our men those tools. We don't build them out to be able to tolerate that in some ways.
But our media, and again, going back to that, our media, our culture has put on a platform that says that the ultimate relationship is suffer and love, right? I remember a couple years ago when Chris Brown did his beating and people came out at Rihanna like she shouldn't. Rihanna herself was put in a very precarious situation. I'm not going to report. I'm not going to this. And, there was a community that was supporting her abuser. And we seem to put on a pedestal culturally suffer a love. If you look at it, some of the song, there was one song I was examining. Him hit me, me hit him. Him hit me, me hit him. Back and forth. And there's a beat on one another. Right? Yeah. But at the end of the song, we pledge never to leave on one another. And so we put it, and the celebritydom and how it is placed in the. So if I'm to say, how do we go forward? We need to change the media. We need to also take that responsibility. Look at what we're coding into practice. Yeah. Look at what it is that we're saying to young people: aspire to degradation, aspire to working hard and being left at some point, aspire to not having your boundaries. There's another thing, like we feel if I lay out my boundaries and this is what I will not take or I take, and for our culture we say, all right, so why she have to say so? Why am I have to say so? We know our boundaries, we know ourselves, we know what makes us function. But yet we're told that, hey, make the relationship work, compromise. What is compromise versus the eradication of boundaries that keep you sane?
Yeah, I think a lot of us have that, Nicole, where the depth of my love for you is the depth to which I will allow you to hurt me.
Yes.
The depth to which I'm willing to suffer for you, And I love that I hate it, but it's a useful term, suffer a love. That is what I am using to gauge. And then I am gauging how much you love me by if you're willing to do the same. Because look how much something I put up with from you. And you're not willing to put up with this. Well, I mean, yes, really there should be balance in a relationship, but at the same time, we need to ask ourselves, why are you putting up with so much from the person?
Exactly.
The opening part of that statement is very telling.
You see, gone are the days when we take the time out to know people or to get a good understanding of persons. Because much of our dating these days are on social media. People don't go out and
situationships.
Okay, yeah, situationships.
Complicated.
I forgot that one. People don't take time out to know each other and see the flaws before we jump into living together, before we jump into having children. So we have not actually gotten a chance to know each other.
The children come first,
They
and
then come first, and the money, because sometimes the relationships are formed based on how much you can give to me, right? And this is where we have a lot of issues.
And it's complicated because for so many people, love is also a part of survival. Love and sex are part of survival.
Yes.
So me have to go towards where the money there. I feel I must go towards where the money is because I know the money are coming. So that's why me I head in a direction of this relationship. But you're right, it does not give that space. So what?
And don't get us started on grooming. When some people groom the individual from them little. You get someone
Yes.
that no farm yet,
Yes.
and there's a gulf in the age, and so this person probably never get a formal education, never know any life aside from you, never know anything. And then some of the families who actually push them into the relationship, so they
Benefits.
can't even turn to the family
Yeah.
because if me left him, the family now eat too.
Benefits.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I had a young lady who called me from America, and her situation was rough. Here she met a man on social media, lived in Jamaica. She's in Jamaica, he's abroad. Got married, went to America to live. By the time she get there and take her foot off the plane, she start to get beaten.
Right.
But at the same time, the man was supporting her family in Jamaica.
Right.
So when it got so bad, she said to her mom, I want to come home because I can't take no more beating. I think that this man going to kill me. The question was asked, come go away. Where you going to go? Is where you stay and no say lick ever kill nobody yet. You try stay there and nothing there.
Right.
This is what mother
Right.
said to her daughter. So if it,
You maybe forget a couple of years ago, his mother said to her 13-year-old, little sex not kill nobody. You remember that one?
exactly. So we start again. I always go back to home and how we teach our children, what we say to our boy. We have always, like you said earlier, teach our girls to be nurturers, to show the emotional side, to always take care of man and yourself come last. I would teach our boys that they should be the provider, should be the provider, and that they are rough and tough. So when women are looking for men as partners or in any relationship, men or female, men or women, same sex, or they are going to look for somebody who can provide for them. Gone are the days when people work together and build them things together, have a greater appreciation and get to know each other. We have common interests, common goals. That's not there. People don't even communicate. Oh, I should fix that. The communication is in the sex. And oftentimes the sex is not the message.
Right.
So there's no communication that you understand what my dreams and aspirations are. I understand the same thing about you, what your likes and dislikes. People not even asking people about them likes and dislikes anymore.
So I hear it coming out. So how can we promote healthy relationships?
You know, I see Richard, and I was reading the chat there, and I see he had some right.
Oh, Rich, I think much needs to be changed. It's not a quick fix. While it's not always the same, humans who are abused fit a certain demographic, not easily employed, low literacy level, from volatile communities, abandonment issues inflicted previously. It is how we enable the institutions that already exist to empower humans. Abuse is a choice to manipulate the weakness of other human beings. How do we use the institutions like schools, the JCF, the media, civil society, and church to empower those who are most at risk? Through empowerment, we cover the holes that are constantly used against us. The institutions who are here to fill gaps show up and not just apply a bandage, but do the work. Normalize care, how we speak to our girls. Don't make them comfortable with being shouted at. Stop him when he speaks to you like one of his boys. The little things, teaching our boys to pull out chairs and speak without his fist. Most importantly, do not give anybody anything that you cannot afford to give.
Is it to give?
Do not give them anything you cannot afford to give. So don't give so much of yourself. Don't give up your friends. Don't give up your family. You know, those things that you can't afford to give.
And it goes back with education. We have to change the narrative. How we speak, how we see. We keep saying intimate partner violence is a private matter. We have to take it out of the sphere of privacy. Because it's not private. Intimate partner violence is a public issue. It leads to mental health. We have to start to look at connecting the dots of what happens where intimate partner violence is concerned. And it begins with education. It begins with empowering people to change how they think and how they do things. And so it's a number of systems and institutions and civil society and government organizations, coming together to look at how we engage the wider society on intimate partner violence and changing the mind that if you're a victim of domestic violence or intimate partner violence, is something to be shameful of.
Yeah.
It's nothing to be ashamed of.
Yeah. So in the class, we love to think about what people can apply. When you leave here, we want you to leave with something that you can apply. So what are some interventions effective intervention strategies for addressing IPV? So, and I'd love you to think about that broadly, because we've been talking and we hear about the impact at the community level. We hear about the relationship, we hear about the individual. We hear that intimate partner violence literally costs the country money, right? Your self-esteem, all of that. How do we intervene in that cycle?
If let me start with just the individuals and the people who are here, and just before I start with the wider implications. The thing is, if you're in any relationship, and while we're dealing with intimate partner violence, I'm just saying any relationship, because sometimes you have some disastrous friendships too. You have to go back to center that quiet person that is yourself. And if you don't know that person yet, turn off the music, turn off the radio, turn off the thing, and sit with yourself. And do a check on yourself. Start by saying, do I feel comfortable with where I am? Do I feel that there is too much going out? Do I feel that I'm shifting away? And this is just a general check. So we're not even looking at the broader things, just it's like an internal wellness check where you just ask yourself, am I compromising me? And if you don't know who me is, then you need to start asking yourself, what is me? And you know what is interesting? I encounter some teenagers, some even 13-year-old will know who me is more than sometimes some 60, 70-year-old people.
Yeah.
So that is not even an age thing. So the first thing is, and that's something you can do no matter where you are, in the stillness and in the quiet. Who, where, what, how am I shifting away from self? And then you ask why, how, who is causing it? And if it's about the control and the abuse, then that is where you start. So I'll let Jacqueline take over the other section.
Thank you for that.
So having understanding self, because without that, then you will stay in that abusive relationship. Having a clear understanding of what self is, who am I? Another form of intervention, another way having that, is to look at the community level. And I love to go community, because at the community level, even before the police gets it, you always hear, but we didn't know,
We did know.
and we did hear, we have an idea, but we never know it was going to reach this bad. So at the community level, what can we do as community to ensure that when we have an idea or when we know, how do we put systems in place within our own community to help? One of the things that we have been doing and asking community to do through the citizens associations in the group, in the communities. Some communities have victim support personnel within their own communities, is to look at the resources that you have. You have a JP in there, you may have a pastor, you have a teacher who is respected. I'm talking about people who are respected members now, not the abusive ones, but we have them in every profession.
Yes.
We have a church in there that may have a counseling center. If I feel within my own self that I may be a victim of intimate partner violence, I'm getting there, might not be physical, who do I reach out to? Can I speak to the pastor, the justice of the peace?
Right.
Can I speak to my community, head of my community group? And it go again with confidentiality.
Yeah.
So when I talk, my business don't end up all over the community, but there are systems within my community. How do we engage community members and community groups to understand that intimate partner violence, domestic violence, is not a private matter, and that when one person is injured within a community, then the whole community is affected by it. Because next thing you're going to hear, say, not date nobody in that community, I know. Because the whole of the man, they mean they kill half a man.
Right.
Or the whole of the woman, they will go and kill you.
Yeah.
Right? So it moves out of the boundaries of homes.
Yeah.
So it's about putting in community structures that will address intimate partner violence. Because every community member know each other business before police reach there.
That's the fact.
But to just even add to that, is just how powerful town hall interventions, workshops, even if it's just for a 2-hour workshop. When I think of the future and I think of the community, and I want to start there, is that if you have a meeting, say with Miss Dillon, and you have because some people, let's face it, the JP, the teach, sometimes they're not always trusted for good reasons. And if it is that you have multiple centers across the country and you have more town halls, I mean, fact is that with limited resources, limited time, but more town hall, more posters, more workshops, short training courses here, some of it even paid for by international partners and so on. But just for people to be present in this community, share that knowledge. And not just like a 1-year thing. We're talking about every year. And I know, but every year it can be done so that people who need it, sometimes they don't come, they say, I know you're going to the other ways, the phone numbers, the WhatsApps, but that hopefully that they will attend. So I see it as something that the town halls and the workshops, and hopefully being able to get that knowledge, so that if I don't trust the JP, if I don't trust the teachers, if I don't trust the people within the community, maybe some people from outside the community, I can reach out to them.
And this is actually where the JCF has been going since 2021. And again, I did say that's one of the reasons we have these domestic violence intervention centers for a reason. You always hear the cry that people don't trust the police, and when they go to station, they have to talk in front of a group of people. And so we said what it is that we can do as law enforcement, because domestic violence is an issue for us. So when we talk about domestic violence intervention, they are safe space and they are on compounds of police station, but they are not a part of the police station.
Right.
So when people go there, it's for help. When we have our community engagement, we do our pop-ups right across the island. Every month, we're in a different parish. So the last pop-up we did in April was in Portland. And what we do, these pop-ups are done strategically because we are looking for what we call domestic violence hotspot areas. So Clarendon is one such parish. Manchester is another one. St. Mary is another one. St. Anne. So we go to the hotspot parish, not that we're going to leave out the others. And we do our pop-ups. Jamaicans learn a lot through music. They love the music. So when we are doing our pop-ups, we are not only talking, we have the JCF band that engage members. We go into town hall and we do pop-ups at clinics. So we just show up at a clinic where we know that people are there early in the morning. We have a conversation about intimate partner violence, and we distribute some flyers and we say to them, listen, if you have an issue, I've made my number, an emergency number for victims of domestic violence. I say to them, if you need to call me on this number. I can get help for you once you call me on this number. And this is how we have to be engaging. We have been engaging the churches. As a matter of fact, we have been engaged in schools. So we have been working with the Parents Teachers Association. We have been working with school administrators. We have been working with the Ministry of Health, the Bureau of Gender Affairs, who operate the National Shelter. Many Jamaicans do not know. The problem is Jamaicans do not know the kind of help that is out there with intimate partner violence is concerned. We have the police, we have the court. When you have a victim come to us and we say, you have to go to the court to get a protection order based on your situation, the first thing them tell is that you can't bother the courthouse.
Not going
Officer,
over
you can't
here.
get it for me.
You must
And
go
not
far.
understanding that the law is as it is. You, the victim, must go. It's only in certain circumstances where we can apply on behalf of the victim, and the law does tell us under the circumstances that we can apply. The fact of the matter is victims need to follow through. And it goes back to what I said earlier. Many victims are more sympathetic, I don't call it empathy, sympathetic to their perpetrators, and so they will, and out of fear, many of them will not follow through. So you say to them, you have to go through the court. Many will not go. You say to them, all right, I'm going to collect a statement from you. I don't want to give you a statement, officer, I just want you to know. You say to them, we're going to put you in a shelter based on your situation. But if you put me in a shelter, I won't be able to do A, I won't be able to do B. And so at what point, as a victim of intimate partner violence, where your life is at risk, do you understand that it's no longer about the perpetrator, it's about you and what it is that you need to do to protect you?
I saw in the comment someone talking about a call center, but there is a call center for youth. I recall a couple weeks ago hearing that some young people called, they did some statistics about young people in Portland calling about suicidal ideation and so on. So that actually exists. I just wanted to point that out, that there are call centers.
Office of the Children Advocate
Right.
as a helpline for children.
And you report as well. You
Yes.
report as a hotline. You can also get them on Instagram.
What I would like to see though is, when I remember when I was growing up, we had a lot of local programming, and remember when they had peace and love in schools, and there was a lot of cartoon around it, and not just advertisements, but there was like
The messages that
it was everywhere. And so when I think of breaking the cycle, and so we have these things for the adults, but the children, even to educate them before it even becomes something that they see. Because one of the things as well, one of the factors is, if you have never really been exposed to intimate partner violence, sometimes, and you come from a nice home, sometimes you don't always see it, because you come from a nice home and mommy and daddy could never dream. And I think we need more sponsored programming, cartoons to appeal to children, messaging that is age appropriate. I sometimes, my daughter is at a school, and when her father and I were excited about something, she said, "Mommy, calm down, take a deep breath," because she's in some dance class where there's a yoga instructor, and she learns to breathe. Of course, when I try to use the same thing on her, it don't work. But anyway, it's for another story. But she's 4.
Yeah.
She's been doing this to me from 2.5.
Right.
Now, age appropriate messaging, the cartoons. What happens when you're angry? This is how you deal with it. What happens when you're sad? This is how you deal with it. What happens when is it right? Just little cartoon snippets. And there's a lot of training there are a lot of animators in Jamaica that can make it happen, that can target our children. There's just not enough local content that is out there for our reality. And that is something that we have to deal with. We are taking messages from the United States and making them our business. You just need to go onto social media and see all the foreign media on our local pages. But where is our local content? Where is our content appealing for the teenagers who are experiencing domestic violence? And I'd say domestic rather than intimate partner, because we also know that some of the parents are involved, right? So we need to have more content. We need to have things that are shared and sponsored, because while some of these sites exist, they're not sponsored enough. Sponsored required that someone out of them credit card go on and actually sponsor it on Instagram to make it reach a wider audience. So there are things that we need to do. We need to focus on wellness. Just when we think of wellness, we think of tourism wellness and wellness packages, but have we really, and it's just going back to my own daughter's experience, here she's at age 4 doing breathing exercises and yoga and telling me to take deep breath. What are the strategies that are taking place in terms of in school teaching people how to deal with aggression? Because we all get angry. You know, we all get sad. We feel. I see reports on students cutting themselves. I teach students who cut themselves, but out of respect, I just sit down and make my office a safe space if you want to talk to me. Right? But they're so used to being silenced that it takes a special miracle for them to come. Because if you ask them a question, they feel that's when the shirt go pull down and you can't see it. So we need local content, and we need sponsorship around local content. That's just not football and sports. We need just this message. The way I was hammered with peace and love in school, we need for some more of that happening now.
I see the private sector need to look at how intimate partner violence impacts work. And if you start to see that reduction in your productivity and pocket, then you'll understand. And that's why I started by saying it's not a law enforcement issue only, because it impacts all spheres of society, and therefore all of us have a role to play, private and public. And I agree that we also need the kind of promotion and education around root cause of intimate partner violence, what it is, and where people can go for help. I am proud of my organization, and I can't come here and not talk about the JCF. I am proud of the JCF. And it is through the collaboration with the United Nations and the European Union that we are able to do a lot of the things that we have been doing for over the last 2 years. The DVI care centers are as a result of the Spotlight Initiative. We have been training our members, Spotlight Initiative. We have a number of billboards across the island, and probably if I throw the question out there, many persons in this room may not have ever even seen one, and they're at the entrance to each parish. So again, it is what is interesting to us. What is it that we pay attention to? What it is that is of importance to us as a society, right? And until we, as a society, determine that, intimate partner violence is going to become another 9-day wonder. We grapple over it for 9 days, and after that, we go back to our normal routine, because violence is like that, and we have accepted violence as a norm within our own society. So for me, I would want for us to look at intimate partner violence, put our money where our mouth is, start to invest in people, the well-being of persons within your own workplace, the well-being of persons within communities, including schools and churches. And if we start to invest in human well-being, you know, we need to start to teach love again, teach about love again. We've lost it. We have allowed social media to impact our lives so much that the human contact and how we treat and respect people is no longer there. So we're going to have to get back to that place if we are talking about dealing with intimate partner violence, dealing with family violence, because we have an issue around family violence that sometimes we don't even notice. Because when a brother and a brother can kill themselves or each other over dumpling, we have a problem. When people can kill each other over deadlift land, we have a problem. So we have to start looking at it, you know, seriously. Intimate partner violence is a concern because the deaths from intimate partner violence have become so gruesome. You know, the rage that comes out of intimate partner violence is really, it's really a lot.
You know, it was something that came up in the workshop that we had with teachers, that kind of rage that the children carry, a rage that is there. You know, you're 13, 14, 15 years old and you're called uncontrollable. And so one of the things that we were trying to do through our own work is to promote wellness in the schools. And we're not just talking about the physical aspects of wellness, but just wellness as mental wellness, emotional wellness, trying to look at best practices, you know, to have a space. You know, one of the presentations that we had was on stick fighting in Trinidad and Tobago. And you would see stick fighting or capoeira as, oh, I'm hitting you, but no, it's actually just, it's a movement. So there's a pattern. You don't lay hands and hit someone, but there's a pattern and a movement to it. But men, and at the end of it, the men who are participating hug each other, they're brothers. And that kind capoeira, other sports, martial arts sports, they might look aggressive, but there are ways also of channeling aggression away from just random events and channeling it into an activity. So recess and PE, instead of just being things where you throw the ball, become spaces of just work, using the body to work out the emotions that are happening. Empowering. One of the things we're looking at also is just the guidance counselors and the traveling psychologists, empowering them, allowing them to do more with additional resources, because one of the issues we came across was that they're funded. So when you get more resources put into the school, more social workers put into the schools, more training for teachers to identify abused students, and for students who are displaying aggressive behaviors, not just to be penalized, but to be, because the JCF, as we also had an attendee from the JCF. I forget what he called it, but it wasn't really a homework center, but he deals with those who are suspended. So the minute they're suspended, the teachers call him, and they go to him. I think you know it's who, and they go to him, and it works as a deterrent. They go to him, and they talk it out with him, but they have to sit down, do the school assignment, and then do the assignment that him said. And him said some of them have even graduated, and they're at UA, and they still come back and say to him, boy, thank you. But it wasn't suspension where you're getting nothing to do. It was suspension where they were accountable to him, and they were put in that program, and him have the group chat and the group sharing. And you know, him say even put him hand on one person's shoulder, and him start like, no one has ever put a hand and just show that I care for you. So what we would like to see is just at the level of the schools, because at some point the new generation have to pass through school. Every child should get the opportunity that my daughter have to come home, come tell them parent, you need to calm down and breathe. Right? Every child should be exposed to that.
You know, that's a program that was initiated a long time ago when I was at St. Catherine South, in Portmore. And we had that program with children, and we found that it worked. Because one of the things that we found when we did our research, and the Community Safety and Security Branch really does that now, is that when children are sent on suspension or time out of school, they go home, they do nothing. So what we did was to form a partnership with the schools, clusters of school within parishes and stuff. We formed that partnership with them and said, look here, before you send that child home to the parents, send the child to us. We'll engage the parent, we'll engage the child. We create a space. I remember we had a group out at a particular school, I won't call the name now, and that school is famous for doing agriculture. And we put them in uniform. The schools that they could not wear the uniform whilst they were, so we put them in black and white with tie. And they go plant the farm and do the farm, and the school benefits. They still have to, after farming, go do school work, because school work is still important. And at the end of the day, when the period is finished, they go back into school, and you find that many of them had a father who came to me and said, boy, I thank you for intervening. My daughter is now at UTech. you know. So
Good.
again, society and groups and communities and private sector and everybody joining together with that common goal and that common understanding
Yeah.
of where we are and where we want to be.
Yeah.
Because we cannot continue to say that our young people are failing us. We cannot continue to say that our men are failing us. We cannot continue to say we have an intimate partner violence problem when there's nothing that is in place.
And the things that are in place are not
And
given
the things that
suitable
are in place,
advertisement.
right, the things that are in place need to be properly funded,
Yes.
and then people need to know how they can go for help.
I want to follow up on that. And I mean, we're close to the end of my ask. I beg for 10 minutes. I beg 10 minutes. It's come up again and again that there are resources, people don't know about them. What resources are actually available for individuals who are experiencing intimate partner violence?
First of
No.
all, persons who are experiencing intimate partner violence can reach out to the police. They can do so at any police station, or they can use the domestic violence intervention care centers. They are located in 8 parishes. So 2 in Kingston and St. Andrew, Matilda's Corner and Constant Spring. We have 2 in St. Thomas, Yallas and Moran Bay. We have 1 at East Clarendon, 1 at Santa Cruz, St. Elizabeth, 1 in Negril, Westmoreland, 1 in Gale, St. Mary, and the other in Alexandria, St. Anne, and 1 at Greater Portmore Police Station. Those are the ones that we currently have. Outside of that, persons can call a DVI care unit that is located at 2 Oxford Road, Kingston. The number 224-4274. 224-4274 or 224-4275. Those are the emergency numbers that people can call if they need help and they need somebody to talk to immediately. The Bureau of Gender Affairs has a helpline. The number is 553-0723. That's a helpline. And I should tell you, they have, I can't tell the other one out of my head, but there are 2 lines, 1 for men, 1 for female.
Yeah.
So if a man have a problem, call the Bureau of Gender Affairs. They have an helpline. If you call the 553 number, this is the one I just gave, and you're a male, they're going to say, okay, let me put you onto the male hotline. And they will give you that male hotline to call. If you're a female, they respond. They have social workers and other persons who answer those helplines.
I think the male hotline is 553-0387.
Yes.
Yeah, 553-0387.
So those are the hotlines for the Bureau of Gender Affairs, and they are 24 hours numbers. Then you have Women Inc. for women who needs help. They can call Women Inc. That number I don't have it out of my head right now. Right? E for Life also operates. So there are a number of institutions. And so and the Victim Support Division also deals with persons who are affected by intimate partner violence. So the help is there. You just need to connect to the right persons. So if they call the police, and that's why I give the numbers, if they call the police, if the persons want to get the DVI care center numbers within their own locale, they can go on the JCF website. They're all listed there, right?
I think they provided a link too.
Yeah. So the link for the DVI care center is in the chat there, and I guess we can probably also put it up where people will be able to access the replay.
Right. So they can call anyone from, and if you're anywhere and you don't know, call the 224-4274 or the 224-4275, and we're going to direct you. We'll advise you as best as possible.
I am very grateful that there is one number that we can call to get that, because I think accessing care, accessing support after you've experienced violence or while you're experiencing it can be so challenging, especially when you feel like you don't know how to navigate, like you don't know where to start and where they're going to send you. So I think having somebody who can hold your hand a little bit or at least guide you is very important. So
that's why we ask you just to follow through. When you call and we say to you, please do so and so, we ask you please to follow through so that we can help you.
Yeah.
Because outside of that, we really can't help if you don't help us to help you.
That's true.
That's the agency. That's what we call it in our parlance, agency. Like, it don't matter how many resources are out there, if that first step, that's the you. That's why I actually
Mhm.
started by saying you have to do that self-test, you know.
Mhm.
No matter how many things and no matter what we throw at you, that agency, that willingness to take that step,
Yeah,
it's crucial.
it's crucial. Oh, okay. Right, the
Take a
big
deep breath.
sigh.
Take a deep breath. Yes.
I love to have these conversations, but not but, and the reality is heavy because there's so much work that needs to be done, and work is happening. And every time I come into a conversation about intimate partner violence, I just feel like we need all hands on deck. We need all hands on deck, you know? And intimate partner violence is so unique because of the closeness of the people who are being violent to each other. And so for me, it's just something that it took a lot of working through. There's a lot of emotion in it. You know, when you say like that fear and that love and that hope, there's a lot of emotion in it. Um, I feel like we need our next life class to talk about that one here. I am not trying to sway anything in any direction, you know, I am just saying. And also, based on what Dr. Plummer has said, I think we need a life class where we're going to talk about what the youths are going through, because the youths are obviously going through a lot. But, you know, I beg for 10 minutes and I'm 2 minutes into the 10 minutes that I beg for. So, wrap up. Okay. So, I want to thank my audience for being here as we had this discussion about why love shouldn't hurt. People have been very vulnerable and sharing in the chat, and I didn't get to engage it as much as I would like to. But I think what you all have been talking about and what's happening in the audience, it's like I'm glancing at it and it's uncanny the way that the things are just paralleling. Somebody in the audience said, I was in an abusive relationship for 18 years and I'm 10 years out and I'm still not all the way back together. You know, Heather Dawkins is saying, yeah, and then we need part 2 of this session because we haven't even been able to lean into that part about what it means to create a community of care.
Yeah.
You know, and I think the way that both of you speak is so beautiful because the way you speak is very integrated. So there's a way that both of you kind of just sew things together when you're talking. And it's so helpful for us because you give us so much in such a short period of time. So thank you both. I want to pick up on the brains, on the minds. Yeah, big up on a good, clean brain. Yeah, right, true, functional, everything I want. Because like the way that you give it to us, you give us something we can use. So I want to thank you both for that. If you have come in, you know, late or you don't know where you are, you're in live class, but we're ending, but you can watch the replay. That's great. And we have been speaking with Dr. Nicole Plummer and Deputy Superintendent of Police Jacqueline Dillon, and we've been talking about intimate partner violence and why love shouldn't hurt. We have covered a lot, and I'm going to kind of recap it and ask you to give your final thoughts, but I'm going to ask if we can launch a Thrivometer in the meantime. A couple of things came out that I want to highlight before we finish. What does an integrated response to intimate partner violence look like? And I just wrote this when Uno did that, because Uno did just everything, right? So a lot of it centered on the schools, mental health support in the schools, the guidance counselors, making sure that they have what they need, making sure we have enough guidance counselors on the ground. We want to see local content. We want to see content that is reflective of our reality. We want to hear people that sound like us, and we want situations that are emblematic of our everyday lives. We need money. We need sponsorship around the content, and we also need money to go into interventions. We need community involvement, the pop-ups at the community level. You know, we need to not just be in people business, to know them business, but we also need to be involved in trying to keep people safe as a community. And there's more that we can think about how to safely keep people safe, because that's a thing that people are afraid of. Private sector, we need private sector involvement. And private sector involvement is essential because intimate partner violence is costing money. It's costing work days. We're losing workers before they can actually, you know, come to their most productive. And that might sound like a very capitalistic way of looking at it, but it's the reality. It's costing you money. Think of it as a community issue and get into the communities. Where are people in your communities gathering? And the things that you said are so beautiful. Football match and all of them type of thing there. People are gathering. Church, people are gathering talk to them where they're gathering. Invest in human well-being, training to identify abuse. It came up in the chat. Somebody said, I think that banks
Yes.
train their tellers on how to identify signs of abuse. It would be beautiful if this was something that we were doing, like as a private sector initiative, to make sure that people are trained. And that's something that you can agitate for. If you are, working in an institution and you engage a lot with the public, you're like a forward-facing institution, a public-facing institution, agitate to get that type of training happening so that you can start to identify people who are being abused. When we're thinking about the schools, what are we doing with PE? Give people alternate ways to channel the aggression. So yes, me love run up and but like little karate and all of them stuff. They come in, I really like do the swimming, I'm not telling no lie. Me miss swimming every week. Every month when swimming for come, I love me, couldn't go. You could have given me karate and I could have hire now. Right? And teaching people how to deal with their emotions. This conversation has come back again and again and again to the self. What do I feel in my relationship? Who am I? Do I know who I am? What is the level of distrust that I am walking with? And how is that level of distrust impacting how I'm able to engage with my partner? Because we don't want to assume that everybody that is watching this is a victim. They're also perpetrators who are watching this. How does your idea around what it means to be human, the cultural things around trust, how is that showing up in the way that you are showing up in your relationships? And how can we intervene there? Because, and I really want to say this, you are a perpetrator, but you can be rehabilitated. You can be restored. There is justice that can happen, and you can come back to a place of health. Because you're abusive doesn't mean that you have to be abusive forever. You don't need to just let go yourself and say, I saw the thing set. Everybody in my family stays. So that's not it, So what's the healing that's needed? And I actually would love for each of you to tell me that as your final word. Tell people where they can find you and tell us, how can we support survivors as they are seeking justice or healing or all of that stuff? What's the support that we can offer? But tell where we can find it, because we love in our people business. Please. The family in the Jane Circle, we love to into people business.
All right, so Celia, I'm going to ask you to copy my email address. So it's nicole.plummer02@uemona.edu.jm. I tend to be very responsive email-wise.
She really is.
Yeah, she can tell you.
My goodness.
So I'm at the Institute of Caribbean Studies, and that is 977-1951. Yeah.
Right.
977-1951, Institute of Caribbean Studies.
All right, thank you. And how can we support survivors as they kind of take that journey towards healing?
I think let's be gentle. Let's start with gentle. It's so strange saying that word because we don't really say it a lot in this country. But let's be gentle. Gentle is when you have someone who is scared and uncertain and unsure of themselves. This is where it also comes back to the individual. You see, before they even sometimes get to the domestic violence centers, before they get anywhere else, we are their friends, we are their mothers, we are their sisters, we are sometimes their daughters. And I say daughters because I had a student who was a daughter of a domestic violence victim, and she had to provide that gentleness. She had to help her mother pick up the pieces. No child should have to do that, but that's the reality. We have to be the ones that sometimes we have to be that safe space. So that's how I would end. And I'll let the institutional.
Exactly. Gentleness. Thank you for that.
So, Jacqueline Dillon again, and I'm located at 2 Oxford Road, Kingston. It's a domestic violence intervention unit at the Community Safety and Security Branch headquarters. I gave the numbers 224-4274 or 224-4275. Supporting survivors of domestic violence. One of the first things that we must do, intimate partner violence. is that we must support without conditions, unconditionally. Understand that we must empathize. And empathy talks about an understanding of what a victim goes through. Understand that the victim will not necessarily leave at the time that you want them to leave. But even through that, you are supporting them unconditionally. So you do not put conditions to persons leaving or not leaving. And then finally, I'll say to persons, I want to give you an iPad. And the iPad is understanding self, my identity, who I am, who am I? And if you understand self, it also helps you to understand what your purpose in life is, right? What is my purpose? Why am I here? I'm going through all of this. Why? What do I need to do? And out of that, you'll develop an attitude, and the attitude will guide your response to how you deal with the situation that you face in order to reach that destiny that you want to achieve at the end of the day. So I love to give people an iPad for life and hope that they understand that. And if you understand your iPad for life, you'll understand and try to work through domestic violence, intimate partner violence, and becoming a survivor, because there's no excuse for abuse, no matter what the situation is. And we all have the opportunity of choosing a better way.
Yeah. Thank you for that. Start with gentleness. Offer unconditional support, which again, that is about being gentle with yourself and the purpose and the person. And then the iPad, who am I, my purpose, my attitude, how I deal with situations that will get me to my destiny. The big sigh. Yeah, thank you to both of you for the work that you do and for taking the time out to come and share with us, and for being on the side of survivors. I think when you're a survivor of violence, it's very easy to think that you're alone. It's probably like one of the earliest thoughts that comes. And it makes me feel hopeful to know that we have people who are working at multiple levels, like at the social, at the academic, at the institutional, and that we're evolving new responses and new intersections that we're exploring around this topic. So, thank you to both of you for the work you do and for coming here. Let's see what our audience feels. Well, them say them like it and them happy, but I could see what them saying at the forever meter. Forever meter, let's go. My mood has improved since the start of this class. I can't do math, so I'm not going to add the percentages. 61% of people said yes, 22% said sort of, 17 said no. And you know what? That's okay. Did the class provide you with a better understanding of the warning signs and dynamics of abusive relationships? 68% said yes, 24% said to some extent, 5% said not really, 2% preferred not to answer. For me, that's still what, like 70% who are feeling good, so that's good. All right, how likely are you to actively support and promote prevention efforts for intimate partner violence in your community? So we have 61% of people who are very likely, 37% are somewhat likely, 2% of people are still not likely. And we know that you're not going to change everybody's mind, and people do have their personal reasons why they can't support certain things, right? Do you feel more equipped to recognize and respond to the signs of intimate partner violence? Overwhelmingly, yes, I feel more equipped. 73% of people. 20% of people say, yeah, but I still have some uncertainties. 7% of people feel that they don't feel more equipped. Don't worry, we'll come with part 2. Any equipment you never get to have a bike and carry. Number 5, I've registered for next week's live class. 76% of people say yes. Hello, who is the 10% of people who say no? Hello, please, the 4 of you, my love, no, go and register for the class, because next week we're going to be talking about From Boys to Men, a look at modern day masculinity in Jamaica, and that's going to be hosted by Brian Cuff. You do not want to miss it. Please, 4%, I beg. Oh, the 15, you're about to. I received what I expected from this class. What is that? 98% of people either totally or mostly received what they were looking for. 2% did not receive what they were looking for at all. Overall, I feel like we did something that will come here to set out combo. So I'm going to give thanks that we were able to hold this space. All right, so please, if you have not registered, Cecilia and Uvila tell you in the chat, go and register for the next class. If you are not following, please connect with JN on social media, so you can find them at the Jamaica National Group on Facebook, and you can also find them at My JN Circle on IG. Please just follow them so that this stuff is gonna, follow them and turn on the notification button so that their stuff will pop straight to the top of your feed so that you don't miss anything. Because as we said, Live Class is in its 5th season, and I am hoping and I believe that we'll be here for a while. So, there's a lot of stuff that we need to explore. So when we're talking about intimate partner violence, and we've spoken about it from a lot of different angles, please remember that this is a combination of many things, core among them being emotion. I love what DSP Dillon said. We're talking about fear, we're talking about hope, we're talking about love. And as Dr. Plummer said, perhaps the potentially most harmful one of that is the hope, because we do believe that people can change and people can, but a person's capacity to change does not mean that they will change anytime soon. And it does not mean that they will change into something that is better. People can actually change for the worse. If you or somebody you know is experiencing intimate partner violence, please reach out for support. And if you are trying to leave a relationship that is violent, please remember that you will need a safety plan. And please remember that this is something that you might also need support to do. And as we have heard, support is available to you. And we've amplified the information about the support that's available on the show. Please, if you missed it, watch the replay, get it, call the numbers, make that connection, and do what you need to do to get to a place that's healthy and safe for you. My name is Carla Moore. I've been your host for the last 3 weeks, and it has been a fantastic time. And I look forward to spending more time with you. But even if you don't ever see me back here on this circle, remember, you're worth it, you deserve it, and do whatever you have to do to have the best possible, most fulfilling life for you. Walk good, and we're not sending any dopey. Make good things work with you. Good night.
How you mean, brothers and sisters, good day there. How you doing? I hope you're doing fine. Can you move this mix up and play for the man like that and shine as I would say? Yeah. Real keen from a record machine to the spot when I see nigga rap and come in as I will tell you. Can you move this, make a jump on twist, speaking of this, tell you about it. Sometimes it's hard, but try and you make it. Believe you me. In order to achieve